Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
James Robert Dull, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Thanks for having me.
Rob, you have the distinction of being the scribe. Also, you've taken notes on like more than half of the episodes we've recorded.
Probably actually 80 or 90%, because I would do it even before I became the actual scribe. I would actually do it at home, especially if it was somebody I knew or something like that. Like I did it for your dad and for Booney and folks like that.
So let's talk about that. What does that do for you, taking notes? Because you obviously like doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, it helps me. Like anybody, if you write something down, it helps you remember it. And I think I would write little things out in the, side, so it would help me think about other things dealing with the episode, thoughts or something like that. So, and then I think the bottom line is, for whatever reason, I just like to write.
Yeah, and you've been doing it since you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I won't talk about it, but I was a history major and English lit minor, so apparently I like to read and I like to write because I certainly wrote a lot of papers. So
I like the degree that would help me graduate college and get a piece of paper.
Exactly right. There you go.
All right, so I guess we've mentioned before how we connected. Certainly, growing up in Ashland, that episode.
Yep.
The listening audience, if they listened to that one, got to know you a little bit better. But you and I have known each other almost 50 years now.
Yeah. So I just turned double nickels earlier this week. And
nice.
I moved.
Oh my gosh!
Happy birthday,
dude! I'm so bad about this stuff.
No, don't worry about it.
Double nickels is a pretty big birthday.
Yeah, it was fun. So
you didn't tell him about the party we had?
I forgot. That's right. Good call.
Yeah,
Kevin,
you only invited 200 people. I didn't make the cut.
That's right. Yeah. We moved into Ashland in September of '73. So right before I turned 6. So you were going to be 4 a couple months after. No, you were going to be 5 a couple months after me. So
right.
Where were you?
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Where were you before?
So the first, essentially, say 5.5 years, I actually grew up on a farm here in Hanover. It's actually where Henry Clay was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, not far from here, where we are now.
Correct. Yeah, probably a couple miles max.
Right.
So over near, I think it's either off Stumpy or near Stumpy or somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's between here and Stumpy.
Yep. So go up Godden's Hill, and I don't know what that. I can't keep track of the roads.
There's a historical marker that is right off 301 that talks about that farm was his birthplace. Yeah.
So that's where we grew up. I think they rented that from part of the whole Taylor family. It's been in Hanover since probably Hanover County was formed, and and then just a funny side note, when I bought the house in Ashland, I moved in to that house, and next door was E.C. Taylor, who was one of the sons of the folks that rented to my parents.
A lot of Taylors in Hanover County, a lot of Gilmans in Hanover
Yep.
County. My daughter, it's funny, and not just a quick aside, she found my yearbook from 7th grade at Liberty.
Nice.
And she goes, "Dad, just in your grade alone, there's 6 Gilmans."
Right.
I'm like, well, welcome to Hanover County.
Yeah, we've been around. Y'all been around for a while.
Yeah, so when you moved into the neighborhood that I was already in, I actually didn't live in the house my parents live in now, but we did move in there when you and I were like 10, 11.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If you drew a square, you were inside one corner of the square, and I was outside the opposite corner.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were opposite corners essentially, and when you moved in the house your parents were in now, we were essentially the opposite corners of the block.
Yeah. So it was 2 blocks if you traveled the roads. If you went backyards, it was equivalent to maybe 1.3 blocks.
Correct. There you go.
Yeah.
A lot quicker.
There was one fence next to you, though, that we never.
Yes.
I don't think we ever went in their backyard.
Seals. Yeah. Yep. The Seals, who were wonderful people, but a lot older.
Yeah.
So, but great folks.
Yeah, I barely remember him, but I certainly remember her. Quite a bit.
Yeah, she outlived him for quite a few years, I think.
All right, we talked about this in the growing up in Ashland part, but share some of your fondest memories from being a kid growing up in Ashland.
Yeah, it was just an incredible place to grow up. We as boys were lucky because we had several boys in the area, and we talked about us. I've said it. I might have said it on that. I still consider one of the luckiest things in my life is the fact that I still hang out with the guys I hung out with when I was 6. I'm still hanging out with them today.
Yeah.
So we just had a really core group, and we just had a lot of fun. And again, go back to that episode, we talked about it. We'd leave in the morning and wouldn't come back until dinner time or whatever. And for me, it was when Biz or Fred, we had the bell on the back porch, and they would ring the bell, and it was time to go.
Oh, wow.
So and I actually, we had to take down that house, and I actually have the bell. So
Do you really?
yeah. So
yeah, that's neat.
But yeah, I mean, just right there on the block, we had Lee and you and me and the Dupreece and Ryan Hopkins, and so we had 6 kids, within. Basically let me tell you, it was 4 years younger, I guess, than you, and 5 than me, I guess. But
right.
Still, he didn't seem like it. So, I mean, we had 6 guys right there on the block. Not to mention, we go over to, Wes and Duke's area, and then we got another 6.
Yeah, well, and we weren't really getting into trouble.
No.
When we stayed in our neighborhood, when we got over to their side of the neighborhood, those kids were doing, and I'm not making this up. And if people can track this down, maybe Duke, Coco, and Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Because Coco's backyard, if you went through the woods in their backyard, you went to the cemetery.
Correct. Yep.
And they used to throw dirt clods at the cars attending a gravesite part of the funeral.
Yeah. Right.
We weren't doing that kind of
No.
stuff on our side of town.
Not a chance.
Yeah,
So,
ridiculous. I should mention that the occasional co-host is here tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah. Son of William Flippin, who was episode 180, I think?
I don't know.
Something like that.
William Perkins.
Perkins, yes.
Yes.
Apparently, I'm just eye candy tonight. So
No, you're
y'all
good.
keep rolling.
No, hey, dude,
No,
jump
I'm
in.
kidding.
I'm kidding.
Jump in. You're definitely going to jump in when we start talking about adult basketball.
Maybe.
And real quick, I really want to meet your dad. That was an incredible episode.
Thank you.
It really was.
Appreciate it.
I had a thrill listening to that.
I'm glad we did that. Yeah, for sure.
No doubt.
All right, so tell us about your parents real quickly.
Yeah, so Elizabeth and Fred Dole, and they it's my dad's second marriage. I know we'll talk about it. I'd say I robbed the cradle a little bit, but I was only half of my dad. So he was again second marriage, and he was 17 and some change older than my mom. And
Fred was a player.
Fred was a player. Yeah, he's a good looking dude. So they met through. My mom's first cousin married a Navy buddy of my dad.
Okay.
And so my dad, kind of like I did, come to that's the first time I ever really have thought of it. He started courting my mom when she was at Mary Washington, much like I started courting Chris when she was still in college.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But so just great parents. I was going to talk about lost dad when I was 19. So
He'd be 100 or 101 now. Right?
he would have been 101 this year.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1921.
Yeah, you were young when Fred passed.
Yes. Yep. So
that makes him, 46 or so when you were born?
yes, he was 46 when I was born. Good math, and 52 when my sister was born. So
Okay.
Yep.
Me and Fred have something in common.
Yeah.
Right, started late.
Starting
Yeah.
late.
Kevin may have had a kid when he was in his late 40s.
48.
Right. Yeah. Understood. I like it. So, yeah, and so Dad was he was a manufacturer's rep for the majority of his life. He mostly sold like electrical conduit switches and all kinds of stuff like that. And then Mom was a social worker for Hanover County for the majority when she went back to work.
I don't think I knew that about Biz.
Yep. So worked out at the courthouse, and then when they built the new building right there off of Ashcake and Route 1, where that's social services and human services and a
the
couple
strip
other,
mall.
looking office building. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I mean, again, great parents. Took care of us, worked their tails off to, make us. They weren't well off per se, but Sarah and I never wanted for anything.
Yeah.
So because they were always working and doing the best they could to provide for us.
You were
So-
solidly middle class.
Oh yeah. I mean, we were. So, but yeah, they worked hard to get that. So,
What was your favorite meal that your mother made when you were young?
It's an interesting question.
yeah. So first thing that comes to mind. So my birthday dinner. I always get what you want for birthday. My birthday dinner was filet mignon, baked rice, and green beans.
Nice.
But
You were definitely a rice guy. You still to this day
I
love
still
rice.
am. Yep. And then, but favorite meal she fixed was her spaghetti. So,
Nice.
and we have the recipe, and Chris fixes it, and it's right there.
Meat
that's
meat
awesome.
sauce? Any meat?
Yeah. It's not really sauce. I mean, there is some in there, but it's not sauce based per se. Not like a really thick part of it. And then my dad was pretty good cook too, and his main thing, probably like me, was breakfast. And favorite one for him was fried shredded wheat. So he would put shredded wheat, like,
I've never heard of that.
yeah, like the frosted mini wheats.
Yeah, they're
But
good. They're good before you fry them.
Right. Well, these were, I mean, like the size of your fist, and then he would fry them up in the pan, and then you just put syrup on them, and they were
Oh wow!
off the hook.
I'm about to try that.
So
I think Rob's going to have to make that for us one time,
There you go.
I'm gonna have to figure out
since
how
he's
to
the
do that.
closest to the original recipe.
Yes, exactly. So
And Fred was a veteran too.
Fred was, yep. So he, again, born in 21. He fought in World War II. He was a naval aviator, a lieutenant commander. So he was over in the Pacific and flew torpedo planes, and had a lot of successful missions. And
Flying just above the water, effectively.
yeah, pretty much. Yep. So, and I was up in the attic the other day, and I found a letter that one of his colleagues sent me, I think a year or two after he died. And it actually, I mean, this is the 40s. Obviously, it's all the joke about, when, I don't even remember when things were developed, but he actually had a picture from his plane to Dad's plane as he's, as they're flying.
Oh wow!
That's cool.
So,
And he sent it
and
to you.
Yeah, he sent me a couple pictures, and he sent me the patch of their squadron or whatever.
That's great.
So that was kind of cool. And then I found several other things. A couple years back, I found I've told you about this. I found his flight book.
Yeah, and Gene Burke said he would help you. No, Davila said he would help you
yeah.
interpret it.
So, which of course I've never followed through on.
Well, we
but
can do that.
But I will one day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
Did he have a call sign?
not that I recall.
I bet it's in that flight book.
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think it was Maverick. But that'd be pretty cool if it was. So, no, I'm just kidding. But that's a great question. I'm not sure.
If you were going to give your dad a call sign, what would it be?
Well, so Dad got into doing the CB radio thing for a while, and his CB handle was the Gray Fox. So yeah,
That is a quintessential Fred
yes,
doll.
yes, it is. So
That's hilarious.
yeah, so I'd go with that probably.
All right, right on. All right, so growing up, I think your interest was probably similar to mine. Just any game we could play with kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, we were games and sports all the time. If we weren't playing midnight football or basketball,
It's the dumbest game ever.
Yeah. So,
Do you know what midnight football is?
Please explain.
so midnight football was at the current Ashland Little League fields when there was no fences there, and it's actually where the Vikings played when we were younger, and before they moved out to Poor Farm, and we would get out there and we would be on the field. We usually played widthwise. We weren't doing 100 yards.
We're doing 50.
Yeah, we were doing 50, and it was 3-on-3, 4-on-4, whatever. But we played in dark, and there were no lights on this field, so it was pretty much pitch black, dark.
There's no artificial light anywhere near us.
No, not really. I mean, Henry Clay was
Maybe a couple lights over there.
yeah
Maybe.
in that parking lot, but that was 100 yards away from where we were closer to the church than we were to the school.
It was dark.
Yeah, it was dark, and so there was probably more running plays than passing plays because if you didn't see it, it probably drilled you in the head.
I think we completed maybe 3 passes total.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah.
By accident. So you obviously you played in the day too. What was the fascination of playing at night? Just because?
We were hitting each other really hard.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah,
All
this
right.
is not too in touch, and then of course the I don't know if famous is the right word, but the maybe prolific play was kickoffs. Because
That's where most of the scoring happened.
yes, because
Are you trying to find the ball?
yeah,
Oh, you had no idea where the ball was.
You would have 4 or 5 people, and the ball would be kicked, and somebody would get it, and there would be some type of signal, and you would all get in a clump, and it would go up somebody's shirt, and then you would just all start running,
that's
and they
great.
didn't know who to go after. So I think eventually it became man on man, and it didn't matter who had the ball. Just everybody was getting tackled.
There were 4 guys getting tackled.
Yes, exactly.
On every kickoff.
I got him. So
Yeah, and we would do stuff like I remember doing this. I'm pretty sure it was my idea. I would throw kickoffs up high, and then they would land, and you'd hear it, and you'd chase it.
Right.
Or occasionally, I'd hit somebody on the top of the head.
right. Yeah.
And then because I'm a jackass, I would fake throw it because you could see kind of the motion of
Right.
whoever's throwing the ball. And I'd fake like I was throwing it straight up in the air, and then I'd just throw a laser.
Yeah.
Trying to nail people.
Which
And I'm not proud of it.
No, you should be. That was a great idea, and then of course that related to what we talked about. I think on the Ashland episode was snowball fights.
Yes.
Was your idea where somebody would throw it up high, and then you'd be like, "Oh no, don't let it hit me!" And
It's called an attention
then-
getter.
Yeah, and then somebody's
Good strategy.
throwing a bean and hitting you in the chest.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, few things made me happier.
that's right. There you go.
So I had a question for you.
Okay.
What was Rob's best sport as a teenager?
Oh, as a teenager's golf. I don't know. When did you start playing?
Started playing when I was about 8.
Yeah, he's a really good golfer. You played in college.
Yeah, for 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, so Rob, I still don't understand this to this day. Rob and I played 3 or 4 times. We didn't play a ton because I'm not really a golfer. And you're killing the ball straight off the tee. And I'm like, I'm twice Rob's size. I know I'm swinging harder. What? How are you doing that, Rob? And he said timing. And then he said some other words, and I'm like, I don't understand anything you're saying to me right now. But I mean, you have figured out things that the typical golfer that goes out and wants to play every Saturday or play 9 holes on a Wednesday have never figured out.
Yeah.
Well, describe it now. How do you? Because you're what, 5'11"?
Yeah.
But-
Maybe even shrinking a little bit, but yeah. Something like
So
that.
5'11", and in your heyday as an 18-year-old, you weighed what?
Oh, geez. 130, 140.
Yeah, you weren't a giant
No.
guy as an 18-year-old.
No, not at all.
And you could nail a golf ball. How did you hit the ball like that, being your size?
Yeah, I mean, it's so the T word I would use now is tempo, and it's just
Or maybe that's the word you said.
I don't know. I mean, it might have been timing, but yeah, just a nice easy backswing, and then you're getting all your push as you come through, and it's not that I, like you said, I didn't have tree trunks, but it's a lot in your lower body, and it's just getting that turn down and then letting it rip, and so and I had I know we'll talk about it, but for a time I lived in California, and I went to watch the pros play. They had an event at the Olympic Club, which is in San Francisco, and at that time I was probably playing the best golf of my life. The U.S. Park Police time was probably when I played the best golf of my life, and I was pretty much scratched, but I was having a little problem. I didn't know what was going on, a little slumpy, and I watched these guys. In particular, I watched Fred Couples. I followed him for about 3 holes, and
Oh, you mean you were at the tournament?
yeah, I went to the tournament. Yeah, and darn if it just didn't come back to me. They were just like on their backswing, just nice and slow. And then man, when they came through, it was just they were just killing the ball.
But they were also smooth when they came through. The ball too.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but
That's one of the smoothest swings ever, Fred Couples.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Great person to watch.
Yes. So, so anyway, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
so golf, to answer your question.
Okay, so take golf out of it.
Basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'd probably say that. Yeah, golf for sure. And then, yeah, I didn't play football. Like Paul just mentioned, I wasn't the biggest kid, so I think that was mainly a Biz and Fred decision. So
That's called a business decision.
yes, so So I almost played in 8th grade, I think, at Collegiate, and then, but then didn't. So
It's a weird sport for prepubescent boys.
Yeah, right.
And kids going through puberty, playing with some kids that are maybe all the way through puberty,
Right.
and
Yep.
maybe you've just started and you're the same age. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, probably main things were golf and basketball growing up. So, and we did a lot of that in the neighborhood. Played baseball for a while, but it probably stopped when I was 13 or 14, something like that, I think.
Played a lot of wiffle
right after majors. But yeah, we played a lot of wiffle ball in the neighborhood. And then the games, Ghost in the Graveyard. And,
I told my wife that story the other day, and she goes, which graveyard you play in? I'm like, we played around our neighbor's house. What are you talking about? Which graveyard? She goes,
Yeah.
oh, no, we'd actually go. The difference between a graveyard and a cemetery, graveyard's actually at the church, cemetery's independent of a church.
Right, yeah.
They would go to a cemetery.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. I'm like, that's next level. We never contemplated that.
That's the New Jersey way, apparently.
Yeah, New Jersey, they don't mess around.
They don't play,
Like, that's the name of the thing, so we
Right.
got to find something that gets us in the setting.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, so you were a kid in Ashland, but you went to a private school that was, a 35-minute drive?
Yeah,
From
pretty
Ashland?
much at the time, 30, 35 minutes, yep. So I went to Collegiate and went K through 12 all 13 years. So
Was Fred a private school kid?
no, and neither was Mom. I think they did know the headmaster, Mac Pitt, at Collegiate at the time. And I think he provided some, help, and then Sarah ended up going there as well, all 13 years. So, but I think they, again, just trying to do, what was right at the time and doing what they thought was best, and that was, sending us to Collegiate. So,
Were you the only kid from Hanover County at Collegiate at the time?
no, we actually had, well, that's a great question. I'm trying to remember early, possibly, but I'm not sure. At the end, the last 6 or 7 years, we had consistent carpools throughout, where we had 4 or 5 kids in a car, and it was funny. It seemed like every time the driver graduated, somebody was getting their license like that spring or that summer, and they would take over. So so it went from Missy Vaughn to me. She was 84, I was 86, and then Beth Flippo after that.
Yeah.
And then
and Collegiate was co-ed, right, your entire time?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Collegiate's definitely co-ed. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
you didn't have all boy classes at any
No.
point. Yeah.
not that I recall. No, we were co-ed the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
Did
but and small. I mean, I think my graduating class was 103 or 109, something like that. So,
Yeah, so maybe 50, 55 boys kind of thing.
I'd say it was pretty much down the middle.
Yeah.
Did Rob going to Collegiate influence you going to St. Christopher's at all?
You'd have to ask my mom that, because she was the driving factor behind me going to private school, and they gave me the choice, Collegiate or St. Christopher's. That was it. And I said,
you were
well,
trying to
what
work on
about Patrick Henry? That's the choice, right? And they're like, that's where we went to school, and we have enough money to be able to send you. It was $5,500
Right.
a year back then.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money now.
Right.
And I took a tour of both places. I was interviewed at both places. I had to take an aptitude test.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't like, oh, you want to go here? Sure, come on and give us $5,500. You had to actually meet certain criteria to get in.
Sure did.
And I was, it boiled down to, I was given a tour by a peer at each school, and I liked the peer at St. Christopher's. I won't say any names.
She was cute.
I went to an all-boys school at St.
St.
Christopher's.
Christopher's.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who gave me a tour, he's an attractive man, but that did not factor into my decision.
We're opening up all kinds of doors on
tell
this
you,
podcast today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it was a fantastic education, much like I imagine Collegiate was for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say roughly half the classes I took my first year of college, I'd had some form or fashion of that at Collegiate, and I wasn't even one of the smart kids at Collegiate. I mean, I was a B minus type guy, and then I had classmates that their senior year they were like, I'm sure they did for St. Chris, they were taking classes over at U of R. Their senior year. I mean, those are the kids that then went
Ended up going to Ivy League.
Yeah,
or
Ivy
whatever.
Leagues or other. We had a couple kids that went to MIT that year, I think, or something. So,
Were you doing a lot of homework in high school?
yeah, there was always a lot of work to do, and a lot of. I mean, I think some of the best things you got out of the education that we got were some of the classical education, and then there was and maybe that's where it comes from too, a lot of writing. So
Way too much writing.
yes, so you were definitely ready, for college when it came to writing papers. If you went to St. Chris or Collegiate or a couple of the other schools around.
Yeah, and the study habits were there. What falls apart for a lot of 18-year-olds, even if they excelled in a setting like that, they're now independent in college and their brain's not fully formed. And you do what I did, and you act like a knucklehead for 4 years and barely eke out a
Well, it's funny you should mention
degree.
that. It's funny what we remember, throughout our life. And I don't know why I remember this, but it was a guy from UVA, and he came in to talk to our class. And he was talking essentially about the discipline that you need when you go to college your first year. And I'll never forget this. And I've told my kids, as they were going off to college, and when you're in high school, you're in class for 30 hours, and they expect you to study roughly 3 hours a night. So you're in class for 30, study for 15. When you go to college, it flips.
Yep.
You're in class for 15, and they expect you to study for 30. So I just think that, again, that speaks to that discipline. But I didn't set the world on fire my first year either, but got it together eventually, and stayed a little above the average, but that's about where I was with school. So
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being slightly above average in
Right.
a lot of things.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so what schools did you look at when you were a senior, or had you started looking earlier?
No, just started looking around. I'm trying to think. Wofford. Wofford was probably actually my first choice, and of course they gave me the big, no, you're not getting in here.
Why Wofford?
I don't know. It was down in South Carolina, and I'm not really sure. It was still small. I wanted to go somewhere small. Yeah, Kevin's doing a golf swing. There could have definitely been a lot of golf down there. So Wofford, Washington College, which is in Maryland, Roanoke, where I ended up going. I didn't apply to a lot. That might actually have been only 3. Maybe I think I might have applied to Hampton-Sydney. Don't know why I did that at that point, but anyway.
It's a rare thing for an 18-year-old boy to want to go to an all-boys college.
So that might have been a suggestion of a counselor or, something. I don't know.
It's a good school.
So, yeah, no doubt it is. So any of the ODAC schools are great. So
All right, so you got into Washington and Roanoke. And why'd you choose Roanoke?
I chose Roanoke. I say now that if Randolph-Macon was in Salem, Virginia, and Roanoke College was in Ashland, Virginia, I would have gone to Randolph-Macon. It was small, which is what I wanted. I wanted smaller classes, individual attention. I think mainly because that's what I had at Collegiate, and I just didn't think I would do well at a really big school. And then I like the area. I've been down there a couple times, just traveling with mom and dad, and so
It's gorgeous in that part of the state.
yeah. I mean, I had a view of the mountains all 4 years, and I totally dug that, and Smith Mountain Lake, and we did that a few times, and so there's just a lot to do down there, and then also the whole thing about flip-flopping the schools is it was 3 hours away, so it was far enough away where I knew I wasn't getting any visits,
And you weren't going to go home to do laundry or anything
Exactly
like that.
right. Yeah, I was still going to have to, like you said, I was still going to have to be independent. But if I needed to get home, I could get home.
You weren't 15 hours
Exactly
away.
right. Yeah.
Or a connecting flight.
Correct.
away from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. So it was perfect, and really enjoyed all my time there. You mentioned I played. Imagine Division III had a JV basketball team, so I played JV basketball for a year.
Is that like equivalent to Division IV?
I guess so. Yeah. So we played a couple other schools that had JVs, and then
That's cool.
We played Oak Hill Academy. So you're playing against.
They
a bunch of
crushed
division-
y'all.
Big time.
they
Who
had
was on
to.
the team when you played them? Do you remember?
I don't. But we had a guy on our team, Ben Betts, who we could look up. He's probably got a Google page. He is, I think he coached at Oklahoma for not a head coach. He's always, I think he's assistant coach, but he was on that team, and we had some good players. We had a kid from Strasburg, Nick Proctor, who was really good. But yeah, there was definitely a couple schools like Oak Hill, who's basically all D1 commits, just taking a year, and they're.
Next time somebody asks you about JV basketball at Roanoke,
Yeah.
say that you played against Alonzo Mourning.
Okay.
Because he's around our age, isn't he? Or is he a little bit younger than us?
No, he might
There might be.
right.
That's
Yeah, might be
That's
right.
actually a great question, Kevin. It might be interesting to go back and see if they actually have a roster of who was on the Oak Hill Academy team.
I bet Oak Hill does.
86, 87. Yeah,
I bet they do.
So yeah.
Awesome. Fondest memories from Roanoke, non-academic wise. Was it playing JV basketball kind of thing? And I mean across the entire time you were there.
Such good things as fond memories, academic
Of
wise.
academic, yeah.
Yeah, that, maybe not for the three of us.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'll answer. So academically, I had a couple of professors that were just really good in just good people, and again, that whole small class size, they really got to know you. One of them became my advisor, and so that's Dr.
You can't hide at a school like Roanoke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry,
Dr.
you were about to say his
Selby.
name. Yeah.
No, he just retired, and then there was a Dr. Miller, and they were both. Dr. Miller's probably my favorite. Dr. Selby was advisor and helped me out a ton. So they were both great. Non-academic. I got my junior year, I think. I got the intramural male of the year.
Wow. What?
For all the stuff that we did. The head of intramurals was the head women's basketball coach, and she's I think got to be in ODAC Hall of Fame, maybe Virginia Hall of Fame, Susan Dunnigan, and so I played everything, and we were the GDIs, we were the goddamn independents, so when we were
nice.
Taking on all the fraternities and everything, and we were beating them at certain things, so yeah, just played everything, whether it was a 3-on-3 or the full-on basketball, league, or softball or flag football. We just played everything.
Yeah.
So
that's how we grew up.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then I guess my kids make fun of me when I tell them the story. I've told them the story, but playing, you weren't allowed to have a car your freshman year at Roanoke. But somebody that played golf got an exception because you had to have transportation to the golf course.
You had to have self-transportation.
Self-transportation.
Yep.
So anyway, we had a kid on the hall. Crawford Hall was our freshman dorm, and I can't remember if he was actually from Alaska or if he just had a fake ID from Alaska.
Like McLovin.
Yeah, like McLovin, exactly right.
Nice. McLovin's was from Hawaii, though.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah. But we became the beer hookup team. So I would drive him to the store. He would purchase it, and we would bring it back to the dorm.
Just need a golf player and a Alaska driver's license.
Alaskan fake ID. So yeah,
that's good.
And then have one close call where I don't know what I did, but I did something, and we got stopped, and we had like 3 cases of beer, but luckily they were covered up on the rear floor, and
so they never saw it.
And they never saw it. So
wow.
So that was the close call, though. But
I guess if you were underage and you had beer in your vehicle, that was against the law back then.
I figured that would be the underage possession, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So I just know I was happy to make it back.
You just blame McFreezen over here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
All right, so you majored in history, minored in English lit.
Yeah.
You obviously liked reading. You liked writing. What were you going to do with that? What was the idea? Like your senior year, hey, I guess when I graduate, I'm going to go pursue what?
Yeah, so I did all that. So I'll go and tell the story. And you've heard it. Kevin's probably heard it. But of course, maybe I've said it on here. But of course, I credit your mom with changing my life. I went Roanoke. I think still is. I told you about Fred. He was in business, and Roanoke had one of the top 200 business schools in the country at the time. And so I went there, and I'm like, I'm going to do business. I'm going to be like my dad, and and that's what I was going to do. And first semester, I got the one course I didn't do well. I got a D in accounting. Funny that I married an accountant, but anyway.
Accounting's pretty boring.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just couldn't get it. With some of the, I kind of remember it kind of being like geometry, and I mean, I can do a lot of math really, really quickly in my head, but if you start talking about theories and stuff like that,
Well, there are accounting principles that you got to follow.
Exactly right. Yeah.
There also shouldn't be letters in math.
That's a very good call. I like that.
I don't know why you got so close to the microphone on that one, but
Make sure you heard.
Yeah, he wanted to emphasize. So anyway, but so I came home that fall. I think we'll talk about it. I'm a year older than most of you and most of our friends.
Yep.
So I came home and I came over to your house and hung out with you. And I always say Brenda straightened my life out in 20 minutes because I said, I went in unlike most college freshmen, knowing exactly what I wanted to do, and I came out the first semester totally confused.
Yeah.
And then she said, and that was at the time, might still hold some truth, go ahead and major in something that you like because a job's going to teach you 90% of what you need to know, and they're going to want people that can carry on conversations in multiple subjects. So if you get a liberal arts education, you'll have a broad base to talk about many different things.
Breadth is going to be really important unless you're going into like a hardcore science or
right.
Yeah.
You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be a doctor. Something like that. So anyway, that's why I went back and did the whole history and American Lit thing. So. And then, but my junior year is when I got an interest in law enforcement. And then, of course, I wasn't going to stay an extra 2 years and switch my major to criminology. So I, finished out with that. And then, but yeah, my junior year, I kind of knew I wanted to go into some type of law enforcement.
Did something happen that caught your attention with law enforcement?
I don't think so. I think it might. Actually, I do think there was like a job fair or something that was there, and I went to that and. Of course, at that time, it was, the big ones were there, so Secret Service, FBI, U.S. Marshals, things like that. So,
Park Police wasn't there.
No, not at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so when you graduated, what was your, you worked a ton at King's Dominion. We need to talk about King's Dominion. You and your family have become, or just theme park, can I say freaks?
Yeah, you can.
I mean that as a term of endearment.
Right. Yeah, no, So Chris and I, we're actually a King's Dominion romance. But yeah, I started working at King's Dominion when I was 16.
Because you and I lived 8 minutes from King's Dominion growing up.
Yeah, so right up the road. So yeah, I mean, before it, so I cut grass like we all did. I delivered papers, like we might have done. We had the Camp Lakeview experience, and I think that was.
I forgot about Camp Lakeview.
Yeah, so Paul and I were counselors at 15 to.
We're making exactly $0 an hour.
Yes, exactly right. So, but and I think that was the year before KD. So then I started KD when I was 16 and started off in food and beverage. So kind of essentially became a short order cook, and then got a couple promotions, and then actually I guess it was the summer before my first year of college, I went into HR. And it was a dual job. It was doing interviews to hire people, but my main gig was, believe it or not, I was the sports activities director.
And you loved that.
And I loved it, yeah. So I got to organize all the sports that we did. So we had basketball tournament, volleyball tournament. We had a full softball season. We played All-Stars against Busch Gardens for softball.
That's fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a great time. So a whole bunch of other things, and I had a colleague, Beth Woodcock, that was her maiden name, who was the entertainment activities director. She was and still is awesome, and we just had a great time together. And I think we ended up doing that for 3 years. So, yes, sir.
So did you ever, manage one of the rides, like the Rebel Yell, like the guy that, starts the rides and all that good stuff? No, so there was a couple times later in my... at the end of when I was there as a seasonal, that they were short staffed, and I'd check the seats, but no, I was never trained to push the button and actually send the coaster up. So, my closest interaction eventually with roller coasters was
again, when I realized I wanted to go in law enforcement, at one time, Kings Dominion, actually, they have the full-timers there are essentially have the same powers as a Hanover deputy. And then they usually have, this is when I think it's changed a lot now that Jack's working there. But
your son, Jack.
My son, Jack, yeah, sorry. But at the time, we had usually about 20 or 25 guys and girls that would be called seasonal police officers. They were sworn in by the Hanover Circuit Court, and they had arrest power. The only difference is they didn't carry a firearm like the full-timers.
And they could only arrest on Kings Dominion property.
On Kings Dominion property, and then we had a 2-mile outstretch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if we needed to chase somebody off property or something.
Yeah, I guess
like
that's pretty typical between jurisdictions, a mile or two.
Yeah, probably something.
Smokey the Bandit just jumped in my head.
Yeah, exactly right. So, where was I going?
Well, we were talking about law enforcement, and then
I'm sorry. Dominion. So security. When I got into security at Kings Dominion, then I had to climb up to the top of a couple roller coasters. Distinctly remember doing it at the Rebel Yell because the coaster got stuck, and so we would be the ones that would go up and calm people down until rides maintenance got there and could fix it and get it rolling again.
Were people freaking out?
Oh yeah, they were flipping out, especially a couples like the Shockwave when they would be hanging upside down. So.
Did anything terrible happen at the park while you were there? I know it's a horrible question to ask.
Yeah, no, actually, I think I just told my daughter Riley. I think I just told her the story not too long ago. But a buddy of mine, Kevin, I can't remember his last name, but it was food and beverage. I think I was 17. And we were coming back from the canteen from having our break and having lunch, and we walked underneath the Eiffel Tower, and we had just gotten, so the canteen is, say, on the right side of International Street, and we were going down to Safari, so we were on the left side of International Street, and a guy jumped off the tower.
Yeah, I worked that day too.
Yeah, so
it was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. So
what?
Yeah, so
I didn't think you could get over the railing up there. I guess you obviously can.
Yeah. I think obviously they reinforced it after that, but I guess there was some way that he could squirm through. So
and he hit the pavement head first.
Yes, he did. Yep. So and there was it was. Yeah, of course that was.
You could hear it. You could hear it everywhere.
Yeah, that was bad. It was nasty, and they were. I don't want to get macabre, but they were.
It's hard to forget when you're a teenager.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's in your.
Well, they were finding things in the bushes 5 days later and stuff.
I'm sure. It's in your brain forever.
Yeah. So and then so that was probably the worst thing when I was a seasonal, and then when I was I think I was full time. I think I was full time when the guy climbed out of the seat on the Shockwave and basically got nixed. Yeah. So I was actually one of the first ones on the scene for that.
Oh.
So yeah. So
yeah,
just setting up the perimeter and everything like that.
Yeah, so. Thanks for that question, Kevin.
Yeah.
Let's liven things back up.
It happens.
That was the entertainment at Kings Dominion.
Yeah. Back then, the entertainment was great. When we were young, before we were working there, that's when they had the water ski show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the bomb diggity, I thought.
They had a lot of concerts there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched Jimmy Buffett there 6 years in a row, James Taylor. When I was full-time, I actually escorted Britney Spears. She was not big at the time. She was still, playing these small,
Had she done it again yet?
I'm not allowed to answer that question. So, but.
So when you say escort, were you like right next to her? Like.
Yeah. I mean, she had a couple of her guys, but I was her Kings Dominion escort. I mean, I was,
It's cool.
Yeah. So.
I went to a Seals and Croft concert, and I only bring it up because it's the first time I ever smelled marijuana.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was at the time, but years later, I'm like, I think I've smelled this before.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Patti LaBelle, I listen to the kids. We're talking about it, but all three of the kids work at Kings Dominion. Talk about how we're a theme park family. And then, and they talk about 25 or 30,000 people in the park, and it's a fair amount. But Patti LaBelle days, we would have 45 to 48,000 people in Kings Dominion.
Yeah.
We were parking cars in what we called it was basically an old air landing strip. It's down past the park, and you turn back going up the kind of the left side of it. It's Route 688.
Okay.
And there's just a wide open field over there, and we would be parking cars over there. I mean, it was just crazy.
That is crazy.
But
I mean, that's a small city, 45,000, 50,000 people.
Oh yeah. So and I always say Kings Dominion itself was its own little town or little city. I mean,
on normal days.
Yeah. Well, and I say that from the full-time employee standpoint. I mean, we covered everything. I mean, we had HR, we had marketing, we had operations, we had maintenance. I got to be such a good friends with a guy in maintenance. He came and fixed the shower head at my house one day.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like that. So, because I'm not mechanical in nature. So, but yeah. So, but yeah, KD. I think the main thing that I say about KD is it credits me with. I credit it with is the ability for me of how I talk to people, and I think. Like when I got into law enforcement, I think that's one of the things that was one of my best attributes is I could talk down people a lot from edgy situations and things like that.
I mean, that's a big part of the gig, right?
It is, yeah. So, but I mean, Kings Dominion. I mean, especially like when I was working security in the parking lot. I mean, you were dealing with every socioeconomic class that there was. I mean, you were having folks coming in and they were dropping their kids off with their season passes, and Kings Dominion was their babysitter, for the summer.
Oh yeah.
And then you had other folks that came in and they were staying at the, I don't know what it is now. I think at the time it was the Best Western, the hotel right next to it, and they were staying there for 2 or 3 days, and that was their summer vacation because that's all they could afford.
Right.
So really taught you how to talk to a bunch of different people from different backgrounds and cultures, and
it made you worldly, and you hadn't left your home county.
Yeah, right. So again, six miles up the highway, and boom, you were there. So.
All right. So you knew you wanted to do law enforcement. You were pretty sure you wanted to do law enforcement before you graduated college. What was your first job in law enforcement?
First job in law enforcement was U.S. Park Police.
And how old were you when you started that?
Started there in 92.
Okay.
So I think 24 is when I got hired.
Okay, so a couple years after college.
Yeah. So I did KD the summer after I graduated just because I knew it, and then I worked for a cousin by marriage doing computer leasing. He was in a building with a company called Cottrell Communications. They're still there over off Impala, off of the Glen side, north side of Henrico. But they also had a little security contingent. So at 23, I had no business. Looking back now, I had no business doing it, but I became the operations manager for this security company, and it was installing security equipment. So I would set up jobs and do billing and things like that. But the whole time I was applying for law enforcement jobs.
And most law enforcement entities want some real world experience. They don't want just straight out of high school or straight out of college going straight into law enforcement.
Yeah, and I mentioned some of the bigger names. I mean, the FBI and Secret Service generally won't even look at you unless you're 26 to 28 because, like you just said, they want you to have that 4 or 5 years unless you got something specialized. But if you're just they have a category of just general hires, or at least they used to. And but if you were that, they wanted you to have 4 to 6 years of just regular life experience, no matter what you did. So.
Yeah, I used the term theme park freak earlier.
Yeah.
Your wife may not appreciate that term.
No. She'll tell you she's a Disney geek without being a geek.
Well, also when I thought of theme parks in your family, how many times have you and your family been to Disney World?
So Julia's 17 and we've been 19 times since she was 1. So, yeah. So
you got to explain what is, and we'll come back to law enforcement because that's a big part of your story. What is it about Disney World that gets you guys there on average more than once a year?
Yeah. So it's funny. We're actually talking about going for 3 or 4 days over Christmas right now. But I mean, Chris says it, and it's true. It's just one of their themes throughout some of their marketing has been the happiest place on earth, and for whatever reason, we're just really, really happy there. So we just go down.
So why not go to your happy place?
Yeah. So we just go down and we have a great time. And
it's true for all 5 of you. All 5 of you love it.
Yes, we all love it. So we can't get enough of it. And I'll talk about the kids eventually, but I mean, Riley did some artwork on shoes, for white tennis shoes, and she did artwork on the shoes for her and Julia's best friend that went with us this last time in August. So Disney characters, you know, and just so yeah, we just really get into it, and we've Chris is amazing. Her dad and I, told her at one time that she should start her own company and just say, invite people to say, okay, I want to spend this amount of money, and then let Chris.
She'd be all over it.
Organize your trip for you.
She would do it flawlessly, and she would do it without effort.
Yeah,
she would love doing it.
And she would save them. And I can't fathom the amount of money just through deals or anything that she saved us over the years. And it's extended to her dad, extended to her mom and dad, but her dad and her mom too. But her dad is retired military, so now we get he gets the tickets, so we get the military discount on that.
Yeah. But
the meal plans that she finds and just various things, and we've stayed all kinds of different places. We've stayed off-site, on-site. There's the Shades of Green, which is the military resort, and we've stayed there a couple times because of Glenn. So it's just great time, and we would take a day off in the middle and go over to SeaWorld with our Busch Gardens passes. We kind of did that whole combo thing. I think we just like Florida. We've done it a couple times. Again, I know we'll talk about Riley playing softball. We were down there one time, and they just didn't have a good tournament. And it was a 5 or 6 day tournament, and we were out in 2.5 days. So guess what we did for the other 3?
Yeah.
We went to Disney. So
wow.
Instead of coming back home.
Do you normally drive down or fly?
So actually, this past August is the first time that we've flown. So other than that, we drove, and when we drive through the night because that was the way to do it with the kids when they were young, that they would sleep through the night, and then so I was joking with a couple of folks that this year is the first time that Chris and I have gotten there and not been in a zombie-like state. So
you should enjoy it too. The first day or two.
Yeah. So
all right, so Park Police. Why the Park Police?
Yeah, so I was applying everywhere, a bunch of different places, and I'd heard about the Park Police. The Park Police is they're actually the oldest law enforcement agency in the United States. They started off, if I recall, being called Night Watchmen. 1789, I think, is when they were founded, and but it was a little bit of luck. I don't know. I took the test for the U.S. Marshals, and I did well. I got like a 94.8 or something like that. And 0.8, they wouldn't look at you unless you got a 95. So I had to wait to take that again.
Oh wow!
But 2 or 3 weeks later, I went to take the test for the Park Police. It was the same exact test. And there was a part on that test you guys have heard about this, where there was like 50 questions, but you only had 5 or 10 minutes to complete it. And it was like 2 plus 2. You were probably going to get it right. It was just a question of how many could you do in the time allotted.
Right.
And with the U.S. Marshals, I got through like 41 of them because I didn't know about it. I wasn't expecting it. I got in the U.S. Park Police, and I got 49 out of 50 or 50 out of 50, and that gave me like a 98 point something on the test. And
they wanted to see if you could retrieve knowledge under pressure.
Yeah, quickly and just get it done in a time allotted. So anyway, then went through the process and got hired and was excited. Like I said, about 24 years old, I think, and then went down to FLETC, which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, which is in Georgia, Glencoe, Georgia. And Park Police, other than the Border Patrol, has the longest academy down there. And the only reason Border Patrol is longer is because they have an 8-week Spanish program that they go through.
Makes sense.
Yep. So, it was great. Really good training, and
you actually had to box.
I did have to box, yeah. So. That was part of what they put us through, and we had physical stuff, but I think every day, maybe 4 out of 5 days or something. We were just like every academy I ever went through. We were running a lot, but I was still really spindly. I think I came out of that academy weighing like 148. I mean, I was not big at all.
You were 24 at the time. The last time I weighed 148, I think I was in 7th grade.
Right, probably so. Yeah. So I think I went in like at 160, but again, just all the physical stuff that we did. I mean, I probably was in one of the best shapes of my life at that time too when I came out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, really good training. I had a Dan Kushner. We were the last two to arrive with our class, and that's how they paired you up for roommates. It was the first one and the second one, the third and fourth, and so on and so forth. So we were the 23rd and 24th people to arrive. We were the last two in our class.
Oh, there were only 24 in your class.
24 in our class. Yep.
So how many park policemen are there at any given time? Ish.
I wouldn't know now. So that's a great question.
Well, because they're in New York, D.C., and San
Fran. Yep. So mainly based out of D.C. I think from what I understand from the history, of course, the District of Columbia, before it was District of Columbia, was a national park. So it would be funny. We would so in D.C. we had other jurisdictions that we would cover, and I guess they did it everywhere because I had it in San Fran too. But in D.C. you had the same power as a Metro police officer within the city, and then we had the we had some jurisdiction in the 4 southern counties of Maryland and the 5 northern counties of Virginia. The Park Police did have the Baltimore-Washington Parkway and the George Washington Parkway are ours. So that's George Washington is at least it used to be District 2 and BW used to be District 4. So There was 5 districts at the time. So I ended up in the Central District, which is right there in East Potomac Park. You've probably seen it as you drive into D.C., though you don't know it. It's kind of across from the Thomas Jefferson Memorial.
Okay.
So,
what's the significance of the name Park? Is it literally because you're...
It's national parks.
National parks.
So and it's everybody's heard of park rangers. And park rangers, there's different folks. Like the park rangers that we dealt with in D.C. were interpretational rangers. They talked about history and things like that. You go to Yosemite or Yellowstone, and there's law enforcement, rangers. But yeah, U.S. Park Police is not widely known. But again, only really located, like Paul said, in 3 areas, mainly in D.C. and then in New York and San Francisco, where there is just a lot of park land. So in San Francisco, when I was out there, we basically had about 30 miles of coastline is what we did for the most part. And we had also, back in the mid-90s is when the DOD started shutting down bases. And the Presidio is one of the first ones they did, and they sold that or got transferred to the National Park Service. Oh. So I was actually the first park police officer from D.C. to go out to start bolstering the force that was needed out in San Francisco.
Gotcha. And if there was a felony, like a serious felony committed on, let's say, Yosemite or Yellowstone, did you guys travel to do that, or they took care of their own at those national parks?
Yeah, so I think they could handle general crimes like that. They might have brought in, the Park Police was a full law enforcement agency, so of course we had investigators, detectives, whatever they were called at the time. So they would go do other stuff. Again, funny what you remember. I remember going through academy, and we had Brian Bosworth. He actually played the part in the movie, but he was based on a guy that was a undercover in a motorcycle gang. But that's a side note, but it was about, there was this 2 pictures, and the first one was essentially this motorcycle gang essentially telling the park ranger, and I don't remember what park it was, but basically that it was like $1 fee, for each person. So they had like 70 bikers, but they wouldn't give the $70 to the park ranger. They wouldn't pay the fee. And I think they were kind of squatting, and they wouldn't leave. And then the next photo you see is the motorcycle guy handing money to the park ranger. Well, if you pull back a little bit, what you also see is the sun is behind the guy taking the photo or person taking the photo, and you see shadows. And we were told that those were U.S. Park police officers standing with shotguns on a hill looking down on the motorcycle gang. So we're the park police is the urban law enforcement arm of the Park Service, where the rangers are more rural per se, I guess. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think the ninth, is it the Ninth Circuit Court or whatever, that's the federal court. Yeah, I mean, we had, people in there tell us, we were thugs and stuff like that. But yeah, we're the urban law enforcement arm. So yeah, so we would go places if need be. So,
did you pull anybody over that was internationally famous while you were out in San Fran?
Yeah. So actually, and he'll be mentioned later because I know a certain question that's coming later. But okay. So yeah, with the Presidio. We had a stretch. It was there was beach on one side, and then there was a couple huge, basically living quarter buildings. That I think probably privates used to live in. It was like apartment buildings essentially. But right out of that exit of the military base was I'm trying to remember names. I think it was called the Cliffs, and the houses were so close you could almost, open up your window and stick a broomstick and touch your, neighbor's house. But they were also all like, at the time, they were like $1.5 million houses or something. But
now they're $10 million.
Probably
houses.
So, but there was one house in there that kind of was its own thing. Nothing touched it. There was a huge, fence wall around it or whatever. And that was Robin Williams' house. And, but that little stretch right there was one of my niche. Like I got a buddy who's with the Bureau of Land Management now, and his niche was he could look at a car and tell you if there was narcotics in it. And we had another guy that could tell you if there was a gun in the car or something like that. My thing was traffic stops and DUIs and things like that. So with that, I ran a lot of radar, and I was running radar one time, and this car came through. It was a 25 mile per hour zone. Came through at 42. And pulled him over, and we used to drive. We would drive through the Cliffs. We had the neighborhood. We had a part of the park that was on the other side of that. So, and I'm walking up on the car, and I'm like, man, that looks a lot like the green Range Rover that sits in Robin Williams' driveway. And sure enough, he was driving, and his wife was in the driver's seat or in the passenger seat, and it was actually her car. But
how'd that go?
It went well. She was really nice. He was a little standoffish to a degree, I think, but civil and nice, and didn't. He
didn't give you a "Do you know who I am?" line.
No, he didn't do that. So, but
you should have just nannered him and then let him go.
And then let him go. I did let him go. I gave him a warning.
Of course you did. Yep. Why wouldn't you?
Right? Exactly. Yep.
You don't want to be the guy to get a ticket for Robin Williams.
Definitely not. So, and I think somewhere I could still have it. I probably got tossed at some point, but I definitely did. When you stop somebody on a traffic stop, you call back in dispatch. They run their license to make sure they don't have any warrants or it's not suspended or something like that. And I'm pretty sure I kept that printout, but again, I'm not sure where that might be at this point. But
you probably have it.
It's probably in the attic somewhere.
I was gonna say you don't throw stuff away typically.
Not very often. Yeah. I'm a hoarder according to my family. So
you're not an extreme hoarder, but you lean that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better. So
yeah, it's all good. So how long were you with the park police?
So I was with the Park Police about 4.5 years. So I did about a year in D.C., again, the Central District. It's been a little time. We actually, they were short-staffed. I did about 3 months at the Kennedy Center. Helped deliver a baby there.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's certainly better than somebody getting out of his seat on a roller coaster.
Yes, definitely concur. So, so did about a year, maybe 14, 15 months, I think, in D.C., and then was out in San Francisco for 2 or 3 years, 2.5, 3 years.
And you like San Fran?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a first cousin out there that has, in a way, kind of become like we'll talk about it. I do have big sisters, but she was like added, basically became another big sister. She had her first kid 3 weeks before I got out there, so that was a lot of fun getting to know her. I did Big Brothers Big Sisters while I was out there, so I had a little out there, and that was a ton of fun. It did. I mean, we talk about sports and stuff, and so golf and softball is what I did a lot out there. And it essentially doesn't rain from April to October. So the only reason you would show up and not play a softball game is if you didn't have enough people. So and that never happened. So yeah. And then just like DC, we had a couple places that were either Park Service. We actually had an Arnold Palmer course on the Presidio. And then I guess they eventually bought it once they switched over to private. And then there was a couple other courses that were San Francisco courses, but we got to play for free. And so I actually played in the California State Police Olympics and won a couple gold medals, a couple with a buddy of mine who played. We played, kind of a captain's choice best ball type thing. So that was one of the 3 or 4 times I went down to Southern California.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which was very, very different. So California is a whole different ball game. So
yeah, I mean it's a gorgeous state.
Yes, yeah.
But it's different than most places on the East Coast.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, I had a great time out there, and loved it. Always knew I'd come back east, and then an opportunity eventually presented itself, and things were not. If you want me to just
sure.
So next was actually full time at King's Dominion. And came home for Wesley's wedding, and went back up to see my old boss, who was my HR boss, and she said, "Hey, the number 2 spot in security's coming open. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure." And there was 3 things that were happening in my life at that time that with the Park Police. 1, I was having no luck with California girls. 2, you would think, I know, tell me about it. 2, you would think the Park Service would be an agency that would help you with school, and I decided I kind of wanted to go back, maybe try to get my master's in something, and but they didn't give me any money for that. And then
it seems odd.
It is, and I probably didn't pursue it. I'm sure there was some government program I probably could have done something with, but and then to get promoted with the Park Police, a promotion list would come out, and your class had to have 4 years on to go through the next process. My class missed that. The date on that, we missed it by 11 days.
So you had to wait basically another year.
I was going to have to wait 2. They did every 2 years.
That's brutal.
Yeah. So, so I came back from Pee Wee's wedding, and
how many people can call Pee Wee these days? Because I think he prefers Wes or Wesley.
He does.
There's probably 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah, max.
Yeah.
So,
can Kevin call Pee Wee?
I don't think he's at that level quite yet. So, but
it's funny.
So got back out there, and actually promptly, just got busy, and I just promptly forgot about about doing it. And she wanting the application to be sent in, and she called me 3 or 4 weeks later and said, "Hey, you going to do this?" And we had a great relationship, known each other for years, and I said, "Oh yeah, sorry, sent it in." And a month later, they flew me in for an interview, and that was in November, and then December accepted the job, and was ready to come back home, I think, to a degree. And Park Police was great. I mean, the major that was in San Francisco said, "Hey, we'll transfer you back to DC, no hard feelings, anything like that." And I don't know, I guess I was just ready for a change too. And I had applied for full-time jobs at Kings Dominion after college, like in games and stuff. I just wanted to work full-time at KD, so right. I think that was, again, theme park freak. So I just thought it'd be a good job, and still was in law enforcement as well. But KD ended up being a really neat job in respect that I was kind of law enforcement for half the year when it was open, and I was outside and in the field and doing things, and then the other half of the year it was teaching me a lot about budgets, and it was that my title was operations manager, so that was doing more managerial stuff, off season, with some, business type things. So,
yeah.
So doing schedules, for perimeter, which was 24/7, 365. And so that was, KD was next after that.
And then you ended up working in a couple other different law enforcement entities after KD, right?
Right. Yep. So kind of got back again. We talked about getting life experience and everything. So about 3.5 years into KD, I decided I actually wanted to go back into law enforcement, but I wanted to try for Secret Service or FBI or something like that. So I started going through their processes and kind of opposite of what I said earlier, they said, hey, we'd really like you to get back into law enforcement, to go through our process. So I was like, okay, whatever you tell me, that's what I like to do. So I ended up going to Henrico Police after I left Kings Dominion. And so that was my second academy. And
did you have to go through the full academy?
I had to go through the full academy there, yep. So, and that was lengthy, 30 weeks maybe, I think, something like that. We had 40. We were the largest class ever to go through. It was almost double what my police class.
What year was this?
This was 2001.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, and I was 34 too. So I was actually one of the older guys in the class too. But yeah. So, did that, and it was, man, again, talk about running and all kinds of stuff. But it was a really good academy, and I think we started with 45, and we had 5 people that failed out. So I think we ended up with 40, which still made us a pretty big class. And we actually, at that time, made Henrico full on amount of positions that they were allowed, which I think was like 510 or something like that. So now they're like a lot of the places and they have been over the years, they're understaffed. So yeah. I think, but yeah, I did that for maybe like a year and a half, and then maybe I mentioned it earlier, but Kings Dominion was the main feeder for Hanover. Hanover loved the fact that these seasonal guys and girls were getting experience, and they
didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, no, they were getting some real good world experience, and they came in with some good training. Hanover helped us with training from time to time, and so I had a couple guys that I'd supervised at Kings Dominion who were now Hanover deputies, and at Henrico it was changing every week. You changed your schedule. It was 8-hour shifts, and you'd work like a week of days, then a week of mids, and a week of evenings.
That's brutal.
It is. Yeah, it was. So they'll tell you it takes years off your life. And so they were like, hey, permanent shift, no matter what it is. It could be one of the weird ones, but, it's still a permanent shift. And at least you get something used to it. And that's what I had. Park Police, I actually, San Francisco, I worked midnights 90% of the time I was out there and loved it. So I really didn't care what I got. But I just thought it'd be fun. And with Henrico, I didn't have a take-home car, because I lived outside the county. So Hanover, I had a take-home car, and and I ended up getting day shift, and so that was that was good. So made that transition, yeah. So again, about between those two, I did about 3 years total, I think, something like that, and then I had a guy at the time, you guys have seen him all around town, RMC Events was starting up, and got to know him, and he offered me a job, and at that point, so when I was going through the Henrico Police Academy, we found out we were pregnant with Jack, and so then I actually kind of we decided together that I just would stay local, because FBI, Secret Service, any of those, you're moving every 3 or 4 years, especially if you wanted to move up. So we decided we weren't going to, move around, with kids. So anyway, started working for RMC Events, brought some decent experience to the job, and he was fledgling and getting going, and then he just took off, and we were busier than...
He's huge now.
Oh, yeah, he's very big. So it's a great... great part-time job for people to work. So, I mean, you get to you see the list of events, and you go, hey, I like to work that, and that, So it's a great part-time gig for a lot of people.
You can enjoy a sporting event, and you're still working, but you're enjoying a sporting event or a concert or whatever.
Yep, exactly right. So
I got a question. What is your most memorable or maybe scariest car chase?
Chase or just moment? Or we can stay with car chase.
As a police officer.
What's the fastest you've ever traveled in pursuit? Start there, and then you can work your way to scariest.
That's a good one.
Like 132 or something like that.
Did you enjoy going 132 miles an hour?
Across the Golden Gate Bridge.
So.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, most people from this country have never even driven on the Golden Gate Bridge, much less gone more than 80 miles an hour on it, or more than 130 miles an hour in this case.
Was it 2 in the morning or something?
Yeah, it was midnights. I mean, so but yeah, I think we had a guy that was leaving the city.
I would tell people that every day of my life. Yeah, I drove 132 on the Golden Gate Bridge.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Another funny story about that was. I could tell a story, but we had pool cars with park police too out there, and we would fight for the unmarked cars. So it had lights like in the windshields and stuff, but not on top, and it didn't have markings on the side.
They couldn't see you coming.
Yeah, basically, and the Golden Gate Bridge at least used to had 3 lanes, and fast lane you're supposed to be going fast. You're not supposed to be going 10 miles under the speed limit. And I was going to the north side. I was going to San Rafael County where we had some land. I was going to patrol that night, and got there, and this guy was doing 10 miles below the speed limit. So I politely, flicked my brights to get him to move over into the other lane, and he gives me the finger. And he obviously couldn't see the car, and our undercover lights were like Battlestar Galactica, the bad guys, where it would go.
Yeah.
I had that mode on one of my lights, and I did that, and he was like, and you could just see him move over and stuff like that. But
you didn't pursue. That wasn't the pursuit.
No, that wasn't the pursuit. That was just an occurrence. Probably I got a couple things. I guess I actually had this happen twice, and at the time I was the only person to do it. I'm sure it's been done since. But one of my coolest stops I ever had, there was this stretch on the beach of about 2 miles in the city of San Francisco where we had jurisdiction, had put up a stoplight every quarter of a mile because it used to be a drag strip. So they had little cutouts, and we would sit there and just do our paperwork. But if we wanted to do traffic stops, we'd watch for people running red lights too, because a lot of people wouldn't pay attention. They just run the red lights. And I was sitting there one night, and this car went through a red light, and I was in the car, and there was lamps around the stoplights, but in between it was pitch black dark. And so I pulled out, and I didn't turn on my headlights, stealth mode or whatever, and came out and watched them go through another red light, and they never saw me, and watched them go through a third one. And then they pulled up at the fourth, or second and third, or third and fourth, whatever it was. And I turned on my headlights and turned on my lights to initiate the traffic stop, and they switched spots. I watch them do it. They're switched spots. They were both drunk. And so after they switched spots, I let the new person drive for 30 feet. So arrested 2 people for drunk driving in one stop. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that happened I did that one other time.
2 for 1 special.
Yeah, it's efficient.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, but it, probably the coolest story or the dumbest I ever was with the park police was I'm sitting at this place was called the Cliff House, and I think it's since closed. But we went there. There was the guy I mentioned from BLM, Noel Wagner, and his now wife was a waitress there, I think, or manager or hostess or something. But anyway, we would go there and get coffee or hot chocolate. San Fran's 35, 40 degrees majority of the time at night, and so we'd go get something, and I'm sitting in that parking lot or just down from it or something like that, and all of a sudden, some person comes running up to my car, and they knock on my window, or they knock on the back of the car, and I look up, and they're like, "Hey, my friend just fell," and so
off the cliff.
Apparently off the cliff. So I don't really know at this time, but there's trails, and this is again 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and they fell, and so Noel actually showed up as well, and we didn't have much to say for climbing rope in our cars. Imagine the little yellow cord that you get. Yeah, that's
not doing anything.
That's pretty much what we had. We couldn't see anything, and we climbed 40 or 50 feet down a cliff.
Oh, with that rope?
With that rope.
Oof.
To rescue this girl. So the problem is that and we secured her and everything and all that good stuff. And the problem was it was obviously a lot easier to climb down than to climb back up, especially with somebody who was not was I guess pretty much not willing to do that at that point. So we eventually had to call fire, and they came in with stretchers and stuff like that, and got her back up that way. Well, by the time all this occurred, it was starting to get daylight, and we climbed down to a little shelf that was 5 by 5 or 6 by 6 or something like that, and we looked down and we were about 150 feet above the rocks in the Pacific Ocean. So,
but you didn't know it when you started.
No, had no clue.
Wow.
It was just all about saving that person,
That's cool.
So anyway, even though it was stupid, we got a little commendation for that. So,
as you should.
Yeah. So, but so that was probably one of the coolest things. But chases. I mean, we got into them so much. I'm not sure I can remember anything specific.
No, that's cool.
So at a couple, I remember. Well, we would respond, quickly to things too.
So what are you doing for work these days?
Yep. So for about 15 years now, I've been with a large local utility and working corporate security for them. Done a bunch of different things in that 15 years, but. Chris works for him too, and it's been great, and it's where I'll retire from.
Wow, it's a pretty emphatic statement.
Yep.
Must be a good place to work.
It is. I like it a lot. Good people.
Let's change gears here.
Yeah.
You, Kevin, and I played what I would call adult basketball.
Correct. Yeah.
And we had some nights where we were pretty darn good.
Correct.
And other nights we lost to people that I think were in their 70s at the time when we were in our late 30s.
There was one older team that for some reason they would tend to have our number.
They were usually a lot closer in the score to us, but we won all the time against them until that one night. That was
right.
The worst.
Yeah.
And our best player, Kevin, was there that night.
Yeah.
He was part of that loss.
You talking about Yancey?
Yes.
That team?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Were you the one that got in between he and I that night? And then you told me he was the owner of Staples or something?
No, not Staples. Office Supply. Or whatever it's called. The supply company.
The supply company, yeah. It's right off where the old Best Products was.
I think my response was, I don't give up.
Yes, I think it was.
And I had words with another player of that team that night. Yeah.
So, I think I do recall that, and I would say that's probably been one of my roles in life is to try to calm things down. So it probably was me that stepped in between. Yeah,
we really enjoyed playing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we had a great time.
Yeah, we had, and we were decent. We were pretty good. There was one team that just crushed us almost every time we played them.
Right. But
they were different athletically than we were.
Yes, right.
You've had several of them on the podcast.
I've had a couple. Yeah.
They were on a different level when it came to athleticism.
All right, can you, between the two of you, I'm not going to participate in this. Can you name or share the names that we had on the back of our jerseys?
Right, so I'm going to remember the one that we couldn't remember the last time we did this.
Do you want to go back and forth? Do you remember any of the names?
I do.
All right, let's start with Rob, and then so odd even. Start Rob odd number one. What do you got?
Well, I'll go with the one that we couldn't remember last time, which was Duke, and that was Magic Boo Woo.
Magic Boo Woo.
One of the ones I know.
I'm sorry, man.
You would think we would have remembered that one.
You would think. It's pretty unique. So, yep.
And Duke loves nicknames.
Yes.
Look at my feet.
that would be Mr. Gilman.
That was me. I don't even remember where that came from. Okay. I guess we don't need to explore that because I don't remember Magic. Magic Boo Woo was a pet.
Yes,
it was a hamster, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a hamster.
So we'll stay on the pet theme, and we'll go to Richard, and he was Slippy for his pet weed.
He had a pet weed.
Yep.
We were funny and strange. God love us.
I'm going to do an easy one. Flip.
That was yours?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Flip. Yep. Ross was. He's had a couple, but I'm pretty sure for Rampage he was Heavy Chevy. I think.
Yeah. Yes.
That's right. Fundamentally sound Ross.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Ross is not heavy.
He's definitely not.
Absolutely. Where did that come from?
I just think the whole Chevrolet dealership thing.
Dumb question. Dumbest question all night.
No, but
Flip.
You like that?
Yeah.
I got off easy.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Who else?
I don't know. What do you got? Who else was on the team? Who was a regular?
We called Mike Woods Big Smooth, but I don't think that was his nickname on his shirt.
I think he might have been
Mookie.
I think he was
It
Mookie.
was just Mookie. Yeah.
Should I tell the Mookie story real quickly?
Yeah, do it.
Mookie, Duke, Rich, and I played on the same, when we were 14 and 15, same rec or Little League team.
Yeah.
And because I'm an idiot, I thought Mookie Wilson played second base for the Mets, but he was a center fielder for the Mets. And Mookie was the tallest second baseman I'd ever seen. Mookie Wilson's not necessarily tall.
Yeah.
And he made some nice play in practice or something. I'm like, oh, that's smooth like Mookie. Didn't make any sense. I was entertaining myself.
Like what?
What did you call him?
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, I just kept saying it so much and so long that everybody else
hooked.
Everybody else picked it up.
That's right.
Yeah. But he's named for an out of position
center
guy for what he played.
Fielder, right.
Yeah.
Didn't L.A. have a nickname on the back of his shirt? It was L.A.
Did you say L.A.?
Right.
It should have said it's L.A.
It's LA.
Yeah, right. That's right.
All right. Did we ever beat the best team?
Actually, I think we did. Yeah.
We did. Yeah. I think.
Is this after I left?
You're talking about the Tar Heels, right?
I'm talking about the guy who had the weird floating 3-point shot, but he never missed.
Sonny Minor?
Sonny, yes.
Minor, yep.
That team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we beat that team before.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was like once out of 40 tries.
Right, yeah.
Who was the best 3-point shooter? Magic Boo Woo. What was your name on the back of your jersey? We didn't say your
Frosty.
Frosty, that's right.
That's right.
Magic Boo Woo, Frosty, or Flip. Who was our best 3-pointer? Or Heavy Chevy. He threw up a few threes.
Yeah,
and I don't mean who shot the most 3-pointers because we all know what that is.
Right, yeah, we know the answer to that. So, wow. No, I agree with you. I mean, Flip was definitely the best all-around player for sure. I think that was actually one of our strengths is that 2 of the 4 people that you just named, 2 would be hot.
Yeah,
no matter what.
Rarely were all 4 of you cold.
Correct, but I will probably say we probably had 3 or 4 of us on the night that we beat that highly athletic team a couple times. I'm pretty sure all of us were hitting. So, but Rico Morris, who I'm not sure really. I guess he must have played against us at some point at that time. But,
Donnie's younger brother.
Yes. Yep. But he, I remember him a couple years ago, came up to Julia after a game, my youngest, and he said, and she made 3 or 4 3-pointers during the game, and he came up and said, "You know where you got that shot from, right?" So,
that's good.
But yeah,
because Rico and I were on the same Little League team.
Yeah, well, we had that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we played the youth basketball, so
one of the coolest things about that team was whenever we would make it wasn't a spectacular play, but like some backdoor cut, somebody would always go, "That's Rampage basketball."
That's right. Yeah. You're so true. So true.
We were
little Princeton action.
Yeah, we were basically the Princeton / Tim Duncan of that league.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we weren't. I mean, you and Mookie were our tallest players for the majority. So we weren't exceptionally tall or anything like that. But I mean, we were fundamental. That's for sure.
There's no question we were fundamental.
Yeah. That was our hallmark.
All right. Now, Rob, you're a note taker and you had flashed your iPad to me. Are there major topics that we have not hit from your notes? Which, by the way, can I see them real quick?
That's a nice
see your
iPad.
notes?
It's like a computer screen.
He's
it's the first time I will look back over my shoulder.
All right. It's rude for us to be watching the game and talking to.
No, it's all good.
That's why
I talking to Rob. I think I just.
That's why I haven't looked over there.
Go away.
Yeah. Talk about how you met Chris.
Yeah, so Chris and I were a King's Dominion romance. So I'd come back and I was working there full time, and it was my first year, so 1997, and she was interestingly enough, she was in food and beverage, and she happened to be. I just mentioned one of the guys that convinced me to come to Hanover is a guy named Robbie Stevens. He's still there. and we credit him with introducing us. They were really good friends, and
I think I inadvertently started music on your iPad.
Oh, it's cool though. It's like a little background.
It's fine. We'll keep it. Yeah,
as you're talking about this.
Yeah. And so he introduced us one day, and
introduced you like as possible.
No,
dating,
just kind of, hey, this is Rob. He's my new boss, and kind of stuff like that. And
had you seen her?
No, I hadn't really seen her. And so I guess the funny story is one day is she saw it. We were standing there doing whatever, and she came up to say hi to him, and I was standing there, and they're just talking, and then according to her, apparently all of a sudden she looks over at me and she sees a gun. And she thought to herself, important person, I gotta leave. And apparently she left.
Oh wow!
But anyway, I guess eventually she thought I was cute, and I obviously thought she was cute, but also noticed her. Chris played Division I softball, and I mentioned all the softball that we had going at Kings Dominion. They were still doing that, and so I started playing for the security team, and she was playing for food and beverage, and she definitely caught my eye playing softball because she was really, really good.
Yeah.
So, but
did you ask her out, or did she ask you out?
I asked her out, so it took a little bit. If they tell the story, I was kind of going out with 3 girls at the same time at that point. So
your kids know this?
Yeah, they know that. Yeah, so.
I did not see you being a player.
Yeah, no. Well, first time in my life, trust me. So,
good job.
But yeah, so they say it took a little bit, but
I never wanted to put myself through that. Not that I could have attracted 3 women at the same time.
Yeah, you could have, but yeah. So clearly, I made the right choice, and we're let's see, we are about what's today, November 3rd, so we're about a month and a half away from 23 years.
Yeah, because y'all got married in December.
Yep, so December 99. So
right around my birthday.
That's right. Yeah, we're the 18th and you're the 20th. So
yeah, tell us about your in-laws.
Yeah, so I know we've talked about this offline. You hear everything about in-laws, but I struck it rich in the in-laws department. Glenn and Pat, and unfortunately last Friday we celebrated a year since Pat left us, way too early, but phenomenal people, just couldn't ask for anything better. Again, I've told you, your dad is one. I had 2 or 3, men that stepped up after my dad, died, and were there for me, and Glenn has filled that role in my adult life for the last 25 years. Being a dad to me, and of course, Chris is one of 4 girls, so we are the boys, that he never had, as kids. He's a do everything guy. He's probably saved us 30 to 40 grand on our house. He can do anything.
Super handy.
Super handy. And then Pat was just amazing. I mean, I like to say that if you looked up matriarch in the dictionary, and every family has one of these. A lot of families do, but I would say you would see her picture in the dictionary when it comes to matriarch. I mean, she was just phenomenal. We had a lot of great discussions, sharing the same view on politics and a lot of other things in life. But he's Pa to our kids, and she was Mamu, and they were the best grandparents. And we had it great in the beginning when my mom was still around. She was older, so she was great for date nights, and then Glenn and Pat were great for weekends away. So, yeah. And then we would always say it's time to get back to mommy and daddy boot camp after they had been with them for a weekend, because they did what grandparents are supposed to do, and that's spoil. So
yeah, and I was at your mother-in-law's funeral, and you could tell she was well loved.
Yeah,
especially by the grandkids.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they have 7 grandkids. Our 3 are the oldest, and all 3 of ours and the oldest of the other group, got up there to say stuff, and So I mean, it makes sense. They knew her the longest and things like that. But yeah, she was incredibly loved, and again, the way I think about it, we just lost her way too early and expected to have her around for a long, long time, and just really, really sucks.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, she's way too young.
Yes, very much. So,
all right, let's ask the big question, then we'll come back and talk about your kids.
Okay, sure.
All right, big question time. So you've heard this question probably more than anybody but the two of us.
Yeah, I've had some time to.
No, he's heard it more than you.
Yeah.
It's your question, but he's heard it more than you.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
right.
And he is completely prepared. He's more prepared for this question than anybody in the history of our podcast.
I'm pretty prepared.
All right, I'll make it quick, so we can get to your answer.
Good. No, you're all good.
You are a late night talk show host tonight.
Did you see that coming, Rob?
I think I had an inkling at least.
And you are going to select a male guest, a female guest, a musical group, and a comedian.
Okay.
And this can be anybody dead or alive. It can be just you wanting to have the Rob Dole show, or you want to have great ratings because you want to come back tomorrow night. It's up to you.
Okay.
So what you got?
So
are you going to give us multiples per?
I have multiples.
Go ahead. You can break them all out.
Right.
You've earned it. All the note taking you've done.
Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate that. All right. So, I mean, I do have them kind of ranked. Though music, I'm off the hook. I can't figure it out. But so number one for male would be my dad. And that's again just simply because I was 19.
You want him to meet your kids?
Yeah. I mean, I would love for him to do that. And I just I just look. I only had 19 years with him, and again, like talking about World War II, and I just would have liked to have him around, obviously for guidance and everything. So, second is an answer we've certainly had before, but I feel I got a strong relationship with him, so it would be Jesus would be second, and then thirdly, I went through a lot of things. But I settled on Rush Limbaugh for my third one. So just conservative talk show host, has a book that just came out that basically, he essentially, no matter what you think about his thoughts or anybody else's thoughts or views or anything, probably the greatest radio host of all time. So.
And you would enjoy
certainly
that conversation.
One of them. Yes, very much. Yeah. So, female, just. Right off the bat, this one was pretty cut and dry for the most part, but I had a couple others. But Margaret Thatcher, just a lot of respect for, her and what she stood for, and just think she was a really neat lady. So,
what was her nickname? She the Iron Lady?
The Iron, yeah, I think that's right.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Mo, her nickname Mo.
Mo, that's what her friends called her.
Yeah. So then. We don't need to do the others.
Okay.
But and then music.
This is your show.
Yeah, I hear you. I go with Margaret Thatcher. She'd be solid. Music, I'm just all over the place with music, so it was really hard for me. So just three that I ended up on were Huey Lewis and the News, Johnny Cash, and Harry Connick Jr.
Okay.
So, but you could throw just about any type of music in there, and I'd find somebody that I'd be really happy to listen to.
Okay.
So
that's the first Huey Lewis in the News we've had.
Yes. So
yeah,
not the first Johnny Cash.
No,
maybe not.
Huey Lewis for sure.
And probably the first Harry Connick too. I think
that's right.
I recall.
Yeah.
So I had a couple others that were Queen, REM, Stray Cats, things like that. So. But
I think you called your shot on the comedian already.
Yeah, called the shot on the comedian. So got one classic and then two fairly new guys that I just really like. But yeah, Robin Williams would definitely be my first choice, hands down. But then the other two really enjoy Jeff Dunham. He's a ventriloquist.
Yep.
And then the guy Joe Coy. I don't know if y'all have heard of him, but
he's a Filipino guy.
Yeah, and he's just. I see TikToks or YouTubes or something, and just cracks me up crazy.
He's very quick-witted.
Yeah, so I saw something where he brought his family on Family Feud with Steve Harvey, and of course Steve Harvey's a classic in his own right, and he just had so much respect for Joe Coy and was just saying, he was talking to the crowd and was going, you got comedians that, fill up theaters, stuff like that. He goes, this dude fills up stadiums.
Yeah.
Or something.
He's been around a long time.
Too. Yeah. So, so I feel sad I've just discovered him. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Robin Williams, hands down. I mean, I just liked him as an actor, but as a comedian, I mean, his one bit about golf is just one of the most classic comedy things I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know why this just hit my brain. When you pulled him over for going 42 and a 25, I think you should have just said, say something funny.
Right. Yeah.
And you can leave.
Yeah, right, exactly. So make me laugh, and you can go. So.
I wonder if he would have. He might have been like,
apparently, Rob's pretty good at reading people. I don't think Rob was in the mood.
No, he probably wasn't. So, but
that's a good show.
Tell us a little bit more about. It's a really good show. It's going to be long with the number of guests.
Yes, if we did all that, but if we go with those first 4, I think we can cut it down a little bit.
Yeah, so. Right on. All right, tell us a little bit more about Chris, and then certainly tell us about your kids.
Yeah, Chris, call her the LOML, the love of my life. So just incredibly lucky. She is a great wife, an amazing mom, phenomenal sister and daughter, and just cares. Honestly, cares for people a lot more than she cares for herself, and like a lot of moms, y'all's wives included, just the glue for our family, and she's made me a better person and a better man, and she's brought me out of my shell to a degree. I think I had it when you probably knew me, Kev, but no, Paul does. I mean, when we got married, I had the good old comb over, and then we're into it a little bit, and she says, hey, why don't we just get rid of all that, and then just weird, food and colors of clothes that, I never would have worn, 20 years ago, just little things like that. But yeah, just, she just opened me up, and I love her. Just love her. She's just awesome. So
you found the one? I
found the one. Yep. So, and thank God she's stuck with me over these years, because I know it hasn't been easy. So
she also does a decent job, I imagine, of managing you.
Yes. Yep. She sure does. So
yeah.
She's lucky too. Let's be honest.
Well, appreciate that. So
we all need managing from time to time.
Yes, we do. So
all right, cool. Tell us about your kids.
Yep. So Jack is our firstborn. Used to call the two of them the Jack and Zach attack when they were younger. So, he's 20, about 3.5 months behind Zach. So he'll be 21 in January, mid-January. He is a third year at Tech. All 3 of the kids, I'll go into each one a little bit, but they're all very athletic. Jack's main thing was football. I had all 3 seasons covered. So when Jack played football, he was it's interesting the transformation he's gone through. He was a center for 3 years for PH football team. Their senior year, they made it farther than any other team since the state championship team, I believe. Made it to the state semis and went for a 2-point conversion with 5 seconds left, and we lost by 1 point. Definitely the right call. Just I think there's actually video of us getting in, but we'll just call the Southeastern Virginia refs going against the Southeastern team, but we won't go there. No, I'm just kidding. But
you're not entirely kidding.
Yeah, I'm not entirely kidding. So, I think I'm proud of him for so many things. But he's inspiring in the fact of what he's done with his physique. He walked off that field after that game at 240 pounds, and he is I think 165 or 67 or something like that now, and works out 6 days a week, and his discipline is crazy. And I think the main thing with that, which I wish I had a little bit of the discipline, was what he does, the way he eats.
Yeah.
So it's inspiring. So, but he's majoring in criminology. think he wants to go into something law enforcement, but he's got a really good business acumen too. So I mean, he could just get a criminology degree and then go get into business. I'm not really sure, but it's wide open, and we'll just.
Yeah, he's got all his life in front of him.
Yep.
As you just mentioned, our oldest kids are boys, and they're both in college at the same college, same year.
Yep.
What I'm going to tell him is, hey, 20s are about figuring out who you are.
Yep.
And so go try a bunch of stuff, and if you fail most of the time, that's okay. You as long as you're learning from those failures,
that's right.
You'll be fine, and you'll eventually get to a place where you find something you want to do.
Yep, exactly right. So. And then Riley is our second, and she is we basically call her an Irish twin for Jack. They're 13 and a half months apart. So
I've offended an Irish person one time by saying that.
By saying that, really?
Yeah.
So we expected Riley to come. We just didn't expect her that early. But it's all good, and. So she is in her sophomore year at Randolph-Macon and majored in business. And so Riley was my spring season athlete. She was a softball player. She was a pitcher, and she was very, very good. She was
D1 colleges were looking at her.
Yeah, she was multiple first-team All-Region and first-team All-State her sophomore year. And yeah, she was being recruited a lot of times. When she was playing, she played on a national travel team. We went to 17 states her last 3 years of playing, which was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of travel.
It is a lot of travel. But we say it's about making memories, and there's definitely places, New Orleans, California, Kansas City. I mean, there's places we would have never gone, if it wasn't for her playing softball. So that was a lot of fun.
How fast did she pitch?
So I'll tell you one of the reasons I admire her most. But yeah, when she actually pitched her fastest when she was 13.
Silly.
Yeah, and she pitched. She was clocked at 67.
Which is equivalent to what for like Major League Baseball?
I think it's 97, 98, something like that. So, and then if I recall, about 3 weeks after that, it was 7th grade middle school softball, and somebody ran into her and she tore ACL on her meniscus.
And she's had knee problems ever since, right?
Yeah, 5 surgeries. Yeah. So, and that's the way that she has dealt with that. I know I'm biased as a dad, but the essay that she wrote for her college entrance essay is all about that and that experience and what she went through and everything, and it should be like a published short story. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But her just determination and perseverance, and the fact that she was still being recruited by D1 programs, after having 2 or 3 knee surgeries, just speaks to me volumes about who she is. And then I mentioned the shoes. She is also incredibly creative. I don't think she took art her junior or senior years, and she still got into the National Art Society or something like that.
Wow.
So she can draw and paint, and
she's quite the cookie maker too.
She just did Hercules for our pumpkin, and it's pretty nuts. So, and yeah, she actually has her own. Not official, I guess, per se, but she has her own company, and she does sugar cookies and does.
Oh, they're brilliant.
Details that. Yeah, she did some for Lindsay's graduation party, and she and we've got Duke's daughter Mandy does it too, and they're both just great.
They're both really good.
Really good. So, but yep. So, and then third is Julia, and she is a senior at Patrick Henry, and figuring out, having a good time being a senior. So they started with the Senior Sunrise this year, and just continued to, have fun. And she's figuring out places she's applying to schools. So a lot of the normal suspects. Tech was kind of always her favorite, but I think obviously still up there. But she's looking at RMC and
like her sister,
JMU,
because Riley's a sophomore.
Yep, Riley's a sophomore there. Yep, and JMU and I think Longwood and Mary Washington. My mom went to Mary Washington when it was the girls' part of the UVA. So looking at that. So she's figuring that all out, and then she's my winter athlete. She's a basketball player and kind of a 3-point specialist, and she'll be one of only 2 seniors this year. We lost some pretty good players last year, but she's going to have fun with it. We got a new coach who was an assistant coach last year. She really likes her. You guys are too, but I obviously feel like I'm the luckiest dad around. So I got 3 amazing kids, and they're all cool, and I will happily say they take after their mom in a lot of ways. They're good looking and they're smart, and
they get along, and
they do. Yeah. So they're typical brothers and sisters. They definitely have their times where they're going at each other, but they're also there for each other, whenever needed. And I'm sure you did it with Zach. I've professed to Jack since he could basically understand me that you're a big brother, and
that's right.
If anything ever, everything ever comes at your sister's, you're going to take care of it.
That's right.
And he would do that. But Julia, third child, dude. I mean, she doesn't take grief off anybody, So and nobody will ever mess with Riley. So she's a lot like her mom, just very strong, very independent, like Mambo. I'm a lucky guy in that respect too. So great kids, and just really excited to, just like we all do, just to see their next steps and where they're going to go in their lives, and want to be here for as long as I can to watch them develop, and hopefully stay happy, and find love and all that good stuff. So
let's end with me saying thank you for all the note taking you've done. I'm not a fan.
Opportunity.
I'm not a fan of doing it. I've learned somewhat recently that you really enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And so you're probably as much of an expert on this podcast as I am, right? You've listened to everything. You've been at a lot of them. Kevin's probably right behind you in terms of expertise. Can you talk about why this podcast is so interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, we profess, that there's, 2 things that we kind of that kind of drives this. One is just to talk to people, and I've talked about me. You have that same gift, and so does Kevin. I mean, we very easily talk to people, and we've had a couple people that are on here that have said, surprised you didn't have questions ready for me. Well, you don't need questions.
It's not fun.
It's a lot of it's not, and then you can call it wing it or whatever you want, but it's actually just having a conversation with somebody. So and
you love the posterity angle.
And then yes, I think one of the best things is the posterity angle, and that's just that great grandkids are going to be able to listen, and you're going to be able to hear what your relative was like, or just never met them. Yep. And then maybe you'll just discover again some other people that, hey, that'd be pretty cool to listen to that guy too, or that girl too, or just see what they were doing at that time in their lives. So yeah, I do love that angle. I think that's just really cool, and we've missed a couple people that we would have liked to have on it, but we've definitely had a bunch of people on that it's going to make a big difference in somebody's life one day. To hear that podcast and to hear that person talk. So,
yeah, and we'll never know that happened, but we know that sort of thing will happen.
That will happen. Yeah. So your Kevin's kids are gonna just be amazed at by his dad's podcast.
When are they going to listen to it?
Brody's already started listening to it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The other 2 will probably be a little while, but I agree.
But the cool thing is 20 years from now, they're going to go back and listen to it again, and they're going to get something different out of it.
As adults.
And then their kids, and then your grandkids, and then, so on and so forth.
Yep,
but
I agree.
So, but yeah, I just think you're doing a really cool thing. I think, and I do really appreciate being a part of it, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And we're not going to talk about it, but we've got a couple things in the works where we're going to try to expand it a little bit, and maybe me do a little extra writing, and
that would be cool.
See where we go. So
that'd be super cool. And by the way, the two of you have helped me get more guests than any other people out there. I mean, I've had other people that help me connect to people, but you two are powerhouses. What typically happens is I'll say, hey, I'm only scheduled a couple weeks out, and then 3 days later we're scheduled 2 months out.
Right. Yeah.
And the three of us are all equally contributing to grabbing guests and getting them scheduled.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that speaks to the three of us, just in respect that we know a lot of people, and I mean, we go to Disney, and I invariably 10 out of the 19 times, 12 out of the 19 times, I've seen somebody that I know. It's just, you go back to that 6 degree of separation when you make some type of connection and it leads you to somebody. And I think we've all led pretty cool lives too, where we've done different things, and that's opened us up to know a lot of different people that would be very good guests on the podcast. So.
I'm just here for the free dessert.
Well, yeah, I don't think I've ever given you dessert. We do have some Halloween candy left over.
That's right.
And then, Kevin, you've started your own podcast.
Yes,
that's right.
That Flippin' Sports podcast.
Yeah. I think we're up to like 13 downloads for our most recent episode.
Is it really 13?
I don't know.
I think Chris's episode did have 13.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It beats 0.
But you know what? We didn't. But to your point, we didn't get into it for downloads. I got into it to talk about sports with my friends.
We're having fun.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're having a blast. We got to bring Rob on and talk about the Steelers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got the lowly Steelers this year. So yeah.
But we'll talk about when they were good.
Yeah, we can talk
that's
about
more fun.
6.
There you go.
Still. Well, we're tied for the lead now, unfortunately. But anyway.
Yeah, We'll talk about the Steelers on the Sports Podcast.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this, Rob. Appreciate it, man.
And all my other teams. So
yeah, we can talk about all of it.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.